Hey everyone, happy college football. Welcome to Porcelain Picks. I'm your host, Andrew Fabian. Switching things up a bit this week, we're coming to you on a Thursday afternoon. Week 12 action is ahead. We're coming off a monster week 11. We went 11-4 for those of you following along. Hopefully you jumped on the bandwagon. That gets us back into the green on the season. We're 99-97 so far on this waning college football season. It's hard to believe it's already week 12. We at Porcelain Picks are here to deliver the locks you need as you scroll atop the porcelain throne. We're going to do that again this week. We've got 16 picks that we're going to make. Joey Mack is back on track. We got him with one of his Maction locks of the week coming up on Saturday. We're avoiding midweek Maction, which is a little unlike us so far season to date. So maybe we'll switch things up come next week. But we'll jump into that noon action. Dixon is taking a little breather this week. He was also excellent on board with me on a number of those winning bets last week. We'll bring him back next week. He just couldn't get to it in time for a Thursday. All right, we'll dive into the noon action. We got Clemson. Actually, Friday night. Let's go Friday night first. We got Clemson plus 2.5 at Louisville. Hard to believe Clemson's an underdog this week after the preseason expectations. They're one of the several teams that really failed to live up to the preseason hype. So Clemson comes in. They're looking a little bit better off that win against Florida State last week. Louisville, man. Louisville. We had them this past week. They were one of those devastating defeats. They lost in overtime, inexplicably, to Cal. They gave up a ton of yards to Cal's quarterback. I can't pronounce his name. I'm not going to even try right now. But he had a monster game. Louisville gave up a ton of pass yards. I think this is a big spot for Clemson to get a statement win that they need this season. Louisville, are they going to be hyped for this game? I think the season's still in front of them. They're still going to play with playoff aspirations. I do think Clemson shows up in a big way. I think they're going to be more prepared ahead of this game at Louisville on a Friday night. I think if Louisville wins that game, if they escaped last week, it might be a different story. Take Clemson plus 2.5, lock it and flush it, and dive into your Saturday in the green. All right, let's go. Notre Dame at Pitt. Pitt right now is a 12.5-point dog, hosting Notre Dame and College Game Day on Saturday at noon. Pat Narduzzi, really the talk of the last couple weeks, with the odd statement that he made. He said something along the lines of he doesn't care what happens in this game. He doesn't care if he gives up 100 points, 103 points, 106 points to Notre Dame, as long as they close out with 2 ACC wins to end the season. Clearly making a statement that the ACC championship race is really important to him and his main focus, but just an odd thing for a coach to say. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt on this one that he didn't really say that properly. Your players don't want to hear you say a game doesn't matter. Fans don't want to hear you, with the money that you're making, say games don't matter. It matters to us fans. So Pat Narduzzi, do better. You're the stinker of the week, and the games haven't even happened yet. But I do like Pitt to cover in this game. Plus 12.5. 12.5 points is too much. I think Notre Dame, they got right last week. They had that big win against Navy that they needed. This is the last big game on their schedule to make an impact and get a big victory. I think Pitt's going to be able to defend the pass in this game. So I do think Notre Dame's going to have to run it with their stable of running backs with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. I think they move the ball on the ground. But again, I think they win the game by 10 points. Pitt covers 12.5. Lock it, flush it. Let's go to the Big Ten. We got Michigan, 11.5-point favorites at Northwestern. Northwestern with Preston Stone. He struggled in the defeat to USC. He's been struggling all season long. He had a big win against Penn State, my Nittany Lions, where he did play pretty efficiently in that game. But he's an efficient guy. He's not someone who's going to put up a lot of points. It's going to be tough to move the ball on Michigan. If you're only scoring 17 points against USC, you're probably scoring fewer than that against Michigan. I don't think they get to 10 points in this game. I think it's a low-scoring affair. Northwestern at home, Michigan running the football. But Michigan is in must-win territory. They're 7-2. I think they're going to come out running the football really well. I don't think they're going to be able to pass the ball, but look for Justice Haynes to get his on the ground. So Michigan minus 11.5 in a stinker of a game. It's going to be 24-9 Wolverines. Lock it and flush it. All right, it's time for Joey Mack's Maction Lock of the Week. We got Eastern Michigan at Ball State. Joey Mack picked Ball State +3. Right now, as I'm talking to you, it's Ball State +2.5. So that's going to be my pick in this game. But Joey Mack thinks that the slate's a little tough this week to pick. These are two bad teams. Neither is doing really well, but you got Eastern Michigan without a road win so far this season. Ball State without a home loss. Home teams are 17-4 in the last 5 weeks in the MAC. Thank you, Joey Mack, for that statistic. If you remove Bowling Green and UMass, who are just at the bottom tier of that league, so look for Ball State to win this game. They're plus 2.5. The wrong team's favored. Lock it and flush it. Thank Joey Mack for that victory. All right, let's go back to the SEC. We got South Carolina at Texas A&M. Texas A&M 18.5-point favorites. Marcel Reed is going to have a huge day. South Carolina seems to have given up. They're in free fall mode. They're 3-6. I don't see their defense showing out for this game. I think Texas A&M is going to name their score. Look for a 35-13 type game. A&M minus 18.5. Lock it and flush it. Let's go to the 3:30 slate. I got Iowa at USC. Iowa coming off that 2-point defeat, really guttingly defeated by Oregon last week. That would have been a huge win for that program at home, hosting Oregon. It was a rainy game. You had a little bit of sleet coming down. USC is going to be hosting. They've got a dynamic offense, a little bit more high-powered than Oregon's. Iowa, are they going to have a letdown game after that big build-up? I don't think they are. I think this 7-point spread right now with Iowa as the underdogs is a little bit too big. I think Iowa is going to try to pull USC down into their style of game, similar to what they did to Oregon. I think they'll have some success doing that. They're going to run the football on USC. They'll be able to. That's a weak point for USC's defense. I do think USC with Maeva to Makai Lemon, that connection is really second to none in the Big Ten if you take out potentially Jeremiah Smith. But I do like USC to win this game. I think it's a tight one. I think Iowa is gutted again by 2 or 3 points. Take the Hawkeyes +7. I also like the under in this game, 48.5. I think Iowa pulls off a similar type sluggish, just heavyweight blow matchup that they did against Oregon. So take the under 48.5, lock them both up and flush them. All right, we'll go back to the ACC. We got Virginia at Duke. Both teams coming off just really poor defeats. Virginia scoring fewer than 10 points in that 16-9 loss against Wake Forest. And then you had Duke going down with a rough loss to UConn. Anytime you lose to UConn in football, it's really something to lick your wounds about and be embarrassed about. Duke is a 4.5-point home favorite. I think Mensa in the offense is going to put up some points against Virginia. It really makes me a little bit nervous that Chandler Morris, their quarterback on Virginia's side, is banged up and that they couldn't score any points last week when they did face Wake Forest. Wake Forest has a solid defense, but I think Duke is going to be able to put up points and be able to hold Virginia at bay here quite a bit. So I look for Duke to win this game by 10 points at home, -4.5 as Virginia's season just goes down the tube. Lock it and flush it with the Blue Devils. Back to the Big Ten. Penn State. Speaking of free fall mode, Penn State at Michigan State. Both teams 0-6 in Big Ten action. Both teams 3-6 overall. Aiden Childs, both teams without their starting quarterback. Aiden Childs was benched by Michigan State after just a horrible season thus far. Michigan State's been in disarray. Penn State in a little bit of a different matter in disarray. They've got Ethan Grunkmeyer, their backup plan. What's going to happen in this game? It's just something's got to give. One of these teams has to win this game, which is kind of funny. Can't believe Penn State's in this situation at this point in the year. But nonetheless, I always say, you see that behind me, you see this here, went to Penn State. So you can take this with a grain of salt. I'm very objective when I pick Penn State games. I do think the Nittany Lions are able to move the football. They're going to score some points. I think I was impressed by some of the wrinkles they added in. They had Kobe Howard finally involved against Indiana. So maybe Andy Kotelnicki is having some of his reins taken away, hopefully. I'm hoping he gets fired at the end of this year. They need some fresh blood, an offensive coordinator in Happy Valley. Look for Kobe Howard to get involved. Look for some gadget plays. Look for them to get creative, throw the ball down the field when they can against a struggling Michigan State defense. I think this game's tight for the first half, and I do think Penn State ends up pulling away with just the overbearing talent they have on their roster. Clearly with the matchup against Indiana, these guys are still at least showing up and trying to play, trying to win for the fans in the university. It's great to see, even though they don't necessarily pull off these big games. So look for Penn State -7.5 in this one. Lock it and flush it. I also think Penn State's going to put up a lot of points in this game. I think Michigan State will score some points on their own. So 48.5 is a low under. I think it goes over 50. So lock them both and flush them both. All right, back to the SEC. We got Oklahoma at Alabama. Some big matchups here in the SEC this week. Look for John Mateer he's been a little bit better lately, but look for him to struggle a bit against Alabama's defense. Bama's defense at home under the lights. They're going to be tough to move the football against. Oklahoma's going to struggle. Mateer, 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games since that injury. Is he really still a little bit banged up, or is it a confidence level? The thing that Oklahoma does have going for them, obviously their defense. This is going to be a defensive battle. I think they are going to be able to shut down a bit that wonderful connection with Ryan Williams and Ty Simpson, Bama's passing game, which they rely on so heavily. Alabama has not had a rushing offense. They've gotten it done just through the air so far this season. Does it come back to bite them here? I really don't think so. I think Oklahoma's just not going to be able to score enough points. Mateer, they have to get him running the football. Alabama struggles when they face running quarterbacks. I just don't think Mateer's confidence is where it needs to be to show up in Tuscaloosa. Take Bama -5.5, lock it and flush it. I also want you to take the under 45.5, lock it and flush it. All right, we're going to go to one of the worst matchups, I think even worse than looking at Penn State, Michigan State. You got UNC at Wake Forest in the ACC. The Belichick experiment has absolutely nosedived. Horrible, horrible football team at UNC. Wake Forest right now is -6. I kind of like the Deeks at home to cover that spread. It's a low-scoring affair. I think Wake's defense is their strong suit. UNC, Virginia is only scoring 9 points against Wake. I don't think UNC has that much more success. So I do think Wake wins. Just a horrible matchup, something like 20-10. Lock it and flush it for the Deeks. If you want to take the under, look at that. It's a little low for me. It's 38.5. I'm going to keep away from that for now. All right. We've got Florida at Ole Miss. Ole Miss, 14.5-point favorite at home. This is a revenge game, believe it or not. Florida kept Ole Miss out of the playoffs last year by defeating Ole Miss when they were headed into the final stretch of the season. Can they do it again? Can they defeat Ole Miss and really just play spoiler? Florida is in disarray. They really gave it their all against Georgia. They lost to Georgia by 3 points. They lost a couple of their great wide receivers in that game. I don't think they have enough to keep up with Ole Miss in this game or anywhere close to it. You saw that last week with that straight-up collapse that we called against Kentucky. We said Kentucky was going to win that game. They certainly did. They blew out the Gators. Look for Ole Miss. The other wrinkle in this game, Lane Kiffin. Are they going to be distracted by that, the discussion of him going to Florida? I don't think so. I think Lane Kiffin's going to want to really show out for this game and give a devastating blow to the Gators. I think they're going to win by 20-plus points. And they're really going to emphasize scoring some points there at the end of the game to pour it on and cover this spread. Take Ole Miss -14.5, lock it and flush it. To the Big 12 matchup, you got Utah at Baylor. This is a 7 o'clock game, so Utah playing a little bit earlier. Maybe catch some eyeballs in this game. They're not used to that. You're usually playing at 10:30. We don't really get to watch them as much. Utah's a 7.5-point favorite. They're ranked 13th. They got their playoff hopes in front of them, even with 2 losses. Baylor, a team that's struggling a bit. They're 5-4 on the season. Their offense does show up, plays well with Sawyer Robinson at the helm. I think Utah is going to win this game, but really the over is the play. 59.5. This game's going to go over 60. I think both teams get into the 30s. I don't know if Utah covers the spread going to Baylor at night, but I do think this over hits. I think both teams are going to be able to consistently move it. Utah's going to do it on the ground. Devin Dampier might have a successful game throwing the football on Baylor's non-existent defense, but I do think Utah runs the ball effectively. That's my only fear, is that the clock tends to tick down a little bit longer, a little bit quicker when you do that, but I like the over nonetheless. 59.5, lock it up, flush it up. Texas at Georgia, one of the biggest games of the week, again in the SEC. Is it payback time for Texas? They were defeated twice, and the only games during their season before the playoff that they lost were both to Georgia. Kirby Smart at home has Georgia with an excellent record. They lost to Bama this year, but any team not named Bama, they've got a 30-plus game home win streak. Georgia's a 6.5-point favorite here. Texas and Arch Manning have been improving, but I said Bama beat Georgia. Bama's weapons are entirely different than what Texas possesses. Texas, They've got wide receivers that can make plays, but they don't have guys who can really go deep and dive down the field, and that's what Georgia tends to struggle with. Georgia's defense has struggled this year. Texas's offense has struggled this year, so I think that matchup will be a really good one to watch for. Can Arch Manning get it done with his legs? I think he's going to have to do that if Texas is going to move the football. Georgia, their bright spot on defense is their linebacking core. I think they're going to try to get after Arch. They're going to throw some blitzes in there, try to put him under pressure and make him beat you. And I think Arch is going to have to win this game for Texas. The defense has to lock down Georgia. I think Georgia might be able to run the football a bit in this game against the stingy Texas defense, but Texas overwhelms worse teams than them. They don't overwhelm the teams that are better than them, and I think that's the case this week. I think Georgia at home is the pick, -6.5. It's going to be a tight match. I think Georgia wins by 7 to 10 points in this one, maybe with a late score to give us this victory. So -7.5 is the play, -6.5 rather. Not going to give away that point. Lock it and flush it. All right. If you're not following, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe to the video. Follow along this season. We're in the green. We're going to keep expanding on that lead. We at Porcelain Picks are here to deliver the locks you need as you scroll atop the porcelain throne. For Joey Mack, I'm Andrew Fabian. Happy college football, everyone.